This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, Text 15, Translation. My Lord, by your unbroken transcendental glance, you are the supreme witness of all stages of intellectual activities. You are eternally liberated. Your existence is situated in pure goodness. You are existent in the Super Soul without change. You are the original personality of Godhead, full with 6 opulences, and you are eternally the master of the 3 modes of material nature. Thus, you are always different from ordinary living entities. As Lord Vishnu, you maintain all the affairs of the entire universe, and yet you stand aloof and are the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. Purport. An atheistic argument against the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead states that if God, the Supreme Person, appears and disappears and sleeps and awakens, then what is the difference between God and the living entity? Dhruva Maharaj is carefully distinguishing the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from that of the living entities. He points out the following differences. The Lord is eternally liberated. Whenever He appears, even within this material world, He is never entangled by the 3 modes of material nature. He is known therefore as Triadisha, the master of the 3 modes of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita 7.14 it is said, Daivihesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. The living entities are all entangled in the 3 modes of material nature. The external energy of the Lord is very strong, but the Lord, as the master of the 3 modes of nature, is ever liberated from the action and reaction of those modes. He is therefore uncontaminated, as it is stated in the Ishopanishad. The contamination of the material world does not affect the Supreme Godhead. Krishna therefore says in the Bhagavad Gita that those who are rascals and fools think of him as an ordinary human being, not knowing his Parambhavam. Parambhavam refers to his being always transcendentally situated. Material contamination cannot affect him. Another difference between the Lord and the living entity is that the living entity is always in darkness. Even though he may be situated in the mode of goodness, there are still so many things which are unknown to him. But it is not the same for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows past, present and future, and everything that is happening in everyone's heart. Bhagavad Gita confirms this. Vedaham samatitani. The Lord is not part of the soul. He is the unchangeable Supreme Soul. And the living entities are His parts and parcels. The living entity is forced to appear in this material world under the direction of Daiva Maya, but when the Lord appears, He comes by His own internal potency, Atma Maya. Besides that, a living entity is within the time of past, present and future. His life has a beginning, a birth, and in the conditioned state his life ends with death. But the Lord is Adipurusha, the original person. In the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma offers his respect to the Adipurusha, Govinda, the original person, who has no beginning, whereas the creation of this material world has a beginning. The Vedanta says, Janmadyasya taha. Everything is born from the Supreme, but the Supreme has no birth. He has all the 6 opulences in full and beyond comparison. He is the master of material nature. His intelligence is not broken under any circumstances, and he stands aloof, although he is the maintainer of the whole creation. As stated in the Vedas, Katha Upanishad 2.2.13, Nityo Nityanam Chetanash Chetananam. The Lord is the supreme maintainer. Living entities are meant to serve him by offering sacrifices, for he is the rightful enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. Everyone, therefore, should engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord with his life, his riches, his intelligence, and his words. This is the original constitutional position of the living entities. One should never compare the sleeping of an ordinary living entity with the sleeping of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the causal ocean. There is no stage at which the living entity can compare to the Supreme Person. The Mayavadi philosophers, being unable to adjust to all this, come to the conclusion of impersonalism or voidism. Tvam nitya mukta parishuddha vibhuddha atma kutasta adi purusho bhagavamstriyadisha yad buddhyavastiti makanditaya svadrishtya drashtasti tau adimukho vyatirikta ase. My Lord, by your unbroken transcendental glance, you are the supreme witness of all stages of intellectual activities. You are eternally liberated, your existence is situated in pure goodness, you are existent in the super soul without change, you are the original personality of Godhead, full with 6 opulences, and you are eternally the master of the 3 modes of material nature. Thus, you are always different from the ordinary living entities. As Lord Vishnu, you maintain all the affairs of the entire universe, and yet you stand aloof and are the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. So in this verse there are so many points, and therefore Srila Prabhupada has made a long purport. And the first point that is mentioned here is that he is the witness of all stages of intellectual activities. So what are the intellectual activities? We can say that these are the acts of the intelligence of all different kinds of living entities. We see that even in lower species, living entities have intelligence. Like, for example, an ant. If ant is walking and you put your finger, the ant will stop and go around it, or maybe go back. So that means he has some intelligence to understand that there is an obstacle in front of me and I shouldn't just bump into it. I will either go around it or just go away from it. Or sometimes you have a plant growing and there is an obstacle, like a branch, for example. There is an obstacle on its way and then it goes around it. So we see that, like, for example, lower species, they have intelligence in relation to eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. You sometimes see let's say you want to feed pigeons with popcorn. But I'm not sure, So maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't think they like popcorn. So if you put it, then they don't take it. They know exactly what they like to eat. Or also children, small children, if you give them something they don't like, they will spit it. Small baby. They will spit it out. So they have this sense that what is it that I like to eat. So everyone has some kind of intelligence. Today, the science, it is said that actually the science can measure 7 kinds of intelligence, 7 different kinds, and there is more, I'm sure. So if somebody tells you you're stupid, you can ask him, but in which area? Because nobody can be totally stupid and doesn't have any kind of intelligence. Because if they say you are stupid, you can tell them, but today, like scholars say that there is minimum 7 kinds of intelligences, so in which area you think I'm stupid? And then they say, this is a stupid argument. You are complete. You are totally stupid. But this argument is not stupid, because it's true that there are different kinds of intelligence. For example, I always glorify devotees who have cooking intelligence, because cooking is so important. I don't know how much prasadam is important in your spiritual life, but in my spiritual life, it was a deciding factor of me staying in ISKCON. So, and I'm not joking, you may laugh, you can think I'm joking, but actually God is my witness. So, I'm coming from Radhadesh, we came with Keshava Prabhu from Radhadesh, and there was an amazing group of devotees in Radhadesh cooking for a few hundred people. Some said it was 1,000, but I don't know if there was 1,000, but I think 1,200 registered, and I don't know if all of them came, but at least few hundred were there. And how they were able to cook such a huge amount with such a perfect amount of salt and other spices and everything. It was amazing. And every day, every preparation was fantastic. So what does that mean? They have cooking intelligence. Actually, tomorrow, when is the next Bhagavad Gita class? On Monday? Monday. We will speak about expanding our intelligence. So we will speak more about this. Or somebody has intelligence for playing instruments. We see some devotees very quickly learn mridanga. Probably it's from previous life. They immediately know these Bengali fancy beats, and then they make them even more complicated. and you are wondering, when will I be able to play like this? Maybe never. So then some devotees have intelligence how to convince people to take Srila Prabhupada's books. To me, this is one of the most important intelligences that the devotee can have, because this can bring Lord's mercy to other people and also a lot of mercy to him, if he is able to convince people to take the books. I don't know if you have heard, but in the 80s, the top book distributor in the world was Harinamananda Prabhu from Switzerland, and he just had the ability to convince people to take sets. So our former spiritual master, he was explaining in one class how to distribute 1,000 books a day. So maybe you are struggling to distribute 10 or 20 books every day, but they were talking about 1,000 books. So how can you distribute 1,000 books in a day? That's impossible. Then he explained how it is possible. He said, every set has 30 books. And you just need to meet 33 people who will take a set. That's 999 books. So in let's say you do Sankirtan 8 hours or 12 or 10 hours book distribution, and it's possible to meet 30 people, but of course the question is whether you convince all of them to take the set of 30 books, which costs, I don't know how much, €100 or I don't know at that time. I mean, they have francs, they still have francs. They don't have euros in Switzerland. And he would not distribute always 1,000, but he would distribute 500, 600, 700. So that's not bad. And you know, when somebody tells you something like this and shows you how something that looks impossible is possible, you start to think, yeah, it makes sense. I just need to meet 30 people whom I will be able to convince to take a set. And if I'm convinced about the value of the set, then I can convince others. So this is book distribution intelligence. And then you have heard about emotional intelligence. For example, some people are able to control their emotions or to be able to tolerate or be patient with other people's emotions, like maybe in anger, negative emotions. They are able to calm people down. Somebody comes very disturbed, and then if you don't have emotional intelligence, you also get disturbed. You start to fight with them. But some people are able to calm other people down who are disturbed. They let them vent out and slowly calm down. And we have an example of Narada Muni tolerating Daksha's outburst of anger, with the hope that he will calm down and become a Vaishnava, Srila Prabhupada says. So even preachers sometimes let people vent out their emotion. And some people say that crying can make you smarter. Maybe you have this experience when you cry. After this, somehow you can think more clearly. But in the beginning, overwhelmed with emotions, you cannot think so clearly and so reasonably. So in this way we see there is so many intelligences that God has given us. And ultimately, matak smritir jnanam apokaram cha dadami buddhiyogam tam. Intelligence comes from the super soul. All kinds of intelligences come from the super soul. So the Lord is not only observer, as it's said here, observer of various types of intelligences, the Lord is also a giver of all types of intelligences. Without Lord giving us intelligence, we couldn't do anything. We wouldn't be able to use our intelligence for fulfilling our own goals, our own desires. But on Monday we will be speaking how to expand our intelligence, because we are also not using all of our intelligence or not accessing different kinds of intelligences that are available. And nowadays, when you need anything, they say Google it. So you have so much intelligence available at your smartphone, at the internet. People like to share things. Practically, you can learn anything. I don't know if you have ever did a search how to rob a bank, but I believe there is explanation and there is books about this, or there is websites or something. I don't recommend this. This is just a funny example, but you can learn almost anything. You can learn almost anything by Google search and learn things. And research says that we are using 2% of our brain, or 3%. So this is a big waste. And now what we are interested, if we speak about intelligence, what we are interested in is spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence. And this is what is lacking in the material world. The spiritual intelligence of the living entities is asleep. They don't use it. They use material intelligence, but they don't use spiritual intelligence. But they have spiritual intelligence. It's just in dormant state. It's asleep. It's in a dormant state. Now, in this whole purport, there is an explanation about the difference between the Lord and the living entities. And it says that they are different, but also in other places it says that the Lord and the living entity are the same in sense of quality and different in sense of quantity. Achintya Abheda Tattva means simultaneously one and different. So one in quality and different in quantity. And the other day, one devotee asked me, how is it that we are part and parcel, but we are separate? How can somebody be a part and parcel and separate? So, do you have any idea how to explain this?
For example, we are sitting here in this house, in this room. So we are like a part and parcel, but we're different from it. At the
Yes.
same time.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
When a woman gets a baby, the baby is, before it's born, it's like part and parcel of the mother. But when it comes out, it's the same individual, so it's independent.
So, before birth, baby is a part and parcel of the body of the mother,
Yes.
and when it gets born, it becomes separate.
Yes.
And in the house, we are sitting in this house, and we are part and parcel of the house, but we are also separate. We have separate identity. I'm just repeating because of the recording. One way to explain this is that God is our source, like the child, the source of the child is the mother. God is our source, and we are also eternally dependent on Him and His energies. So He is allowing us some free will. He is allowing us some forgetfulness. But it doesn't mean we stop being dependent on Him, because everything is His energy. And in one sense, He is everything. He is everywhere. We wouldn't have intelligence to enjoy the material world if it were not Him. He is giving us even intelligence how to fulfill our material desires. What to speak of spiritual guidance. So He's giving, as a super soul, He's giving this guidance. So simultaneously one and different. It's not so hard to understand. One in quality and different in quantity. We are Anu and He's Vibhu. We are very small and He's unlimited. He's unlimited. And then another important point that is stated here is that He is free from the three modes of nature. So three modes of nature are binding forces or energies, three types of energies that rule in the material world over all living entities. They are conditioned by the three modes. We are conditioned by the three modes. But He is about these modes. He is the creator of the modes, he is the controller of the modes, and he is not affected by the ignorance, passion, and goodness. He is situated on the level of pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva, or Vishuddha Sattva, which is devoid of any tinges of passion and ignorance. Goodness that is ruling in the material world is actually mixed with passion and ignorance. It's not pure goodness. As soon as we speak of pure goodness, then it's about the three modes. So if we observe, like 14th chapter, 17th chapter, 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita describe the modes of nature, if we understand how the modes of nature are working, we can understand how we are conditioned. And we can understand during the day how we are conditioned by the modes. And sometimes devotees say, oh, I am in Tamaguna today. So knowledge of the Shastra is creating awareness, or we may say a type of intelligence. It's creating a type of intelligence in our mind, in our consciousness, that allows us, enables us to notice the influence of the modes when we are influenced by the modes. And that's an advantage. This is the advantage we have in comparison to other people who don't have knowledge from the Shastra about the modes of nature. So if you notice that you are too much in the mode of passion, if you notice that you are too much in the mode of ignorance, because you are aware of it, thanks to the knowledge that you have received, then you can do something about it, and you can elevate yourself to the mode of goodness. You can start acting in the mode of goodness, you can start thinking in the mode of goodness. For example, lamentation is in the mode of ignorance. If you notice that you are always lamenting, then you can start thinking in the mode of goodness. And thinking in the mode of goodness is full of hope, enthusiasm. You have positive thoughts. You think creatively. So we are very fortunate. The beginning of change is awareness. If you're doing something unconsciously, you will not be able to change it because you're not aware you are doing it. But if someone points out, or somehow you become aware, Shastra is pointing out how living entities in different modes act, like in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's described in detail how living entities influenced by the different modes of nature act, behave, what are their qualities. You can recognize, we can recognize ourselves in this, and we can understand in which modes we are, under which modes we are, under which influence we are, and then we can we can do something about it. If I'm not aware that I'm doing something, and then I read, or somebody points out, Shastra is also pointing out in one sense. So somebody points out, then I have a chance to change this. I have a chance to change it. For example, if you talk to someone and they're always criticizing other devotees, criticizing the material world, then you may say to a friend, you're always criticizing. I had one experience that one gentleman who used to come to London, he told me that I sound, when I speak, as a person who is in anxiety. So he said, why you always sound like this? You are supposed to be a spiritual person, supposed to be happy. And I wasn't aware that when I speak like this, I sound like this. Then I, by his pointing out, I became aware of this. And then I saw that this is coming from my inner dialogue, from the way I think. Then the way I speak has been manifested. And then I started working on my inner dialogue. We spoke about this yesterday. And then my communication and the way I sound changed. But it required someone to point it out. So here Shastra is pointing out to us different things, or sometimes other people or other devotees or spiritual master are pointing out to us different things, and then therefore we have a chance to change. We have a chance to work on something. So someone may say, we read this verse and the purport, and what does this have to do with my life? What does it have to do with my day to day? I don't understand the connection. But if we read a little bit more carefully, or if we discuss it in the association of devotees, we can see that every verse, every purport has a lot to do with our everyday life, everyday practical situation. And one also important, and sometimes people say, that's just a theory. It's not a theory. Svadrishtya, very important, Svadrishtya. Svadrishtya means by transcendental vision. We know Shastra Jnana Chakshusha, Shastra Chakshu, to see through the eyes of the scriptures. Or sometimes I say, you need Gita glasses to look at your situation. And if you face any situation in life, then you can ask yourself, how would I see this situation through the eyes of the scriptures, through the eyes of the Gita, or through the eyes of the Bhagavatam? And then your whole thinking about the whole this situation changes. So thank you very much for listening. Do you have any questions? Yes.
So when it is written in books, pure sattva, it is not anything material, it's fundamental. So it's above the motor. It's above the mold of the three molds. Because before you said I was a little bit confused when what was written, it is on pure sattva or it is transcendental. Both are meaning the same.
I think so. Pure goodness and transcendental level is the same. Pure transcendental level. Okay. Any other question? Yes. You.
That means that to do consciously or to want to change ourselves consciously and unconsciously means that is a permanent mindful effort to using our knowledge and permanently trying, as Srila Prabhupada said in lecture, try to understand. So that is mostly so mindful activity.
What is the last thing you said in here?
That is mostly mindful activity.
Mindful
to make
mean
an effort always to understand. So according to the shastras, according to the scriptures, so is it this or it is that? So now I'm in the mode of this, mode of that. So that's it. Just like chanting, it's also mindful activity.
What is your question?
That is my question. Is it this? Is it so or not? Is it mostly mindful activity or not?
It depends how conscious you are.
How what?
How conscious you are.
Conscious, okay.
Mindful means conscious. Mindful means conscious, that you consciously do something. Or mindful also means careful, with attention. And conscious effort is the best way to change. But when will you change? You will change when you are convinced that it's beneficial for you. Otherwise, you have no motivation to change.
Oh. That means first conviction and then mindful activity, how to coincide it. Yes, so because we are praying to God, we are praying, give me intelligence, engage me in your service. So that is also mindful activity, but we are praying. So, and they're being guided by our spiritual masters, yes, by how to coincide it.
How to what?
To coincide it,
Coincide?
to differentiate it. Or not to differentiate, how to understand it, this combination, how to use it correctly.
Which combination?
Our mindful activity, yes, because our minds are not purified, mind is not purified, yes, it's contaminated. And praying to God, who is the cause of all causes, who is the air, who is the effect, and who is the cause and the effect, everything together, yes. Shall I, for example, always be thinking of if I'm doing correct or not, if it is comparing it with my poor knowledge, what I have done, or to think I'm nevertheless independent. Yes, so dependent on God's mercy. So I can only pray and show Him my wish to do something, and everything else He will do.
We need both the Lord's mercy and personal effort if you want to get some results. If you use only one of them, then that's not sufficient. So we pray, but we also make an effort. And we can pray to the Lord to help us to act properly or to achieve results. So there is always effort that we need to make. Some people think that depending on God means waiting. But depending on God doesn't mean waiting. Depending on God means understanding that I act and the results depend on Him. And we accept His supreme will, that I'm going to make an effort, but it's up to Him if there will be a result. Because I'm not the controller of the results. But He wants me to make an effort, He wants me to act, He wants me to serve, He wants me to engage my energy, but it's up to Him what will be the result. Srila Prabhupada speaks about this a lot. He says, success or no success, we will never give up. We will always serve. And service itself is success, even if there is no external result. And when we speak about results, you may become a very amazing devotee. You have results, you're making devotees, you are distributing a lot of books, you are distributing a lot of prashad. You have a lot of external results. But what about internal results? What is happening in your heart? Are you changing your character? Are you becoming convinced? Is your faith growing? Is your faith growing? Is it becoming unbreakable? So there is not only external results of our activities, there is also internal results. What is happening with your heart, what is happening with your character. So we observe both. We want external results because external results have to do also with giving Krishna consciousness to others, which is also important and it's also spiritual. But we were also we had devotees who were acting as instruments in Lord's hands, very nice instruments, and they left. So that means there was no internal change. They surrendered themselves as instruments, and Lord used them to distribute Krishna consciousness, but they themselves didn't benefit because they didn't develop so much faith and so much taste so that they can stay. So that's unfortunate. We don't want to lose devotees. Sometimes devotees feel that, they just want some result from me, so they give it, but they forget about themselves. These people want me to distribute books. I can do it. I don't care. I'm not afraid. But they don't work on their own. The whole purpose of being engaged in the service is first that you save yourself first. Okay?
I have one question, if possible.
Uh-huh.
Shuddha Sattva is the level of sense of pure bhakti?
Yes. Yeah, level of Shuddha Sattva is the level of pure bhakti. Yes. Okay, yes.
I have just one question. You said about sattva. So Bhagavad Gita says that we are not the doer. So if I chant, if I'm doing seva, if I'm doing this and that, so how to understand that I'm chanting, but I'm not chanting. So that's why I feel a little bit confused. So.
But there is also one purport where it says that we are the doer. We are the doer. We are not the doer in the sense that we are not the ultimate controller of results. Do you understand this? We are not the ultimate controller of the results. You see, Krishna is supplying everything. He is supplying energy, He is supplying intelligence, and we have a desire. And if he wouldn't give us all these facilities, we couldn't do anything. So in that sense, He is controlling everything. There is 5 factors of action in the Bhagavad Gita described in the 18th chapter, I think. One of them is the super soul also, and one of them is the performer, that's us. So I don't know why Shastra says that we are not the doer, because in other places it says we are the doer. But we are not the only doer. In the material world, if you go and read success books, they say you are the doer. They say you are the main doer. If you believe it and if you can believe it and conceive it, you can achieve it. Napoleon Hill. If you believe it and conceive it, you can achieve it. No, it's not true. It's not true, because you can stand on your head and scream and kick and shout, and if God doesn't give you the result, you will not get it, even if you are brilliant, perfect, and all the other things that anyway God has given you, all other opulences. So that's the difference between success philosophy in the Bhagavad Gita and the success philosophies in the material world. They say, release your desire to the universe. So what is the universe? What is the universe? Release your desire to the universe, or universe will help you. It's just rascaldom to call God universe. The one who is approving. It's pure rascaldom. So maybe, I don't understand. You have to ask Krishna. I don't understand why it says we are not the doer, because we are the doer, but we are not the only doer. This I understand. But if you say we are not the doer, in one sense, everything we have is given by God. So even ourselves, we are created by Him. So, You may say, oh, I am nothing, then I am nothing. But no, you have free will, so you are something. God has everything except your love. You don't give it now to God. So, He has given us a chance to, deprive Him. You understand the word deprive? To let Him not have something. And that is our love, little independence. We don't give it to Him. He has given us this chance, and we are using it very nicely in the material world. We want to forget Him, and we don't give our love to Him. We want to give our love to cats and dogs. Prabhupada says. But now I think it's a little bit more clear. We are not the only doer, but we also, we make a decision to act. And we always have a choice. Shall we serve Maya or Krishna? We are always a servant. We are always a servant. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Yeah.